My name is Peter Levitt, Patriot. My address is P.O. Box 1245, Jacksonville, Alabama. Today I present to all of you the undisputable truth about Antifa, Marxism, and communism. At the last meeting, Jennifer Lux spoke for those dressed in all black, making their points of paying the fine for relocating the CSA memorial statue and that they are about love, peace, and unity. First, good government must never be bought out or persuaded by allowing people the idea to pay a fine as acceptable. So the opposing side will get what they want without jail time. If this were to happen, it would only show that their schemes and plans worked because you bent the law. In 1958, Congress enacted a public law, 85-425, stating the term veteran includes a person who served in the military or naval forces of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War. The term active military or naval services in such forces. Thus, the men of the CSA military are in the same status of all U.S. military veterans. The removal would be a disgrace to those men who died during the war. Second, I am greatly disappointed to see familiar faces wearing black, who are teachers from JSU, and people who helped recognize or organize the Jacksonville cemetery stroll that was done in conjunction with our state's bicentennial in order to preserve and properly educate people on our local history. It's in our city's motto, education, commerce, heritage. Thirdly, the false notion of love, peace, and unity will be used to cover their end goal, as it was with the fascist movement in Italy in 1919 with Mussolini, then Hitler in Germany. They were keen, cunning persuaders and manipulators of government and the people. When they worked their way up the ladder and obtained the seat of authority, then they forced the fascist scheme to worldwide takeover, resulting in World War II. Recently, in an interview that resurfaced with Patrice Cullors, co-founder of Black Lives Matter, was quoted by the New York Post saying that we are trained Marxists. Just a reminder, Marxism is communism. The cancer that eats away our federal representative republic and will bring America to its knees. Lastly, they have always been portrayed as peaceful people by the media. When Fox 6 did the story on the last meeting, they left out a particular highlight concerning who these people really are wearing masks and all black. The man who apologized for not wearing a black shirt made his demands of defunding police, making outright threats to all of you and the people of Jacksonville by saying, you will radicalize the people and expect a revolution. This is simply threats and demands that terrorists make. Ecclesiastes 10:13 says, the beginning of the words of his mouth are foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. Their objective is to put fear into all of you and us so that you bend or bow to them. Again, it will not stop at removing memorials. There is always more to the iceberg of Marxism beneath the surface that will sink our nation when our leaders cave to the radical left movement of domestic threats and terrorists. Their actions are their choice and has nothing to do with you, because every man and woman is accountable for their actions and inactions, good and bad. Why don't we see Antifa and Black Lives Matter mobs build instead of destroy? Why do they wear jet black? If they are really for the true American people, why don't they wear red, which represents courage, white, that represents purity, and blue, that represents justice? The Marines uniform of 1804 that I am wearing proudly today displays all three colors. Remember, good government following God's mandate protects good citizens and upholds truth and punishes evil and suppresses it. If it came down to a self-defense situation with mobs destroying businesses, threatening good citizens like in St. Louis, Missouri, will you protect the good citizens in the court of law? Romans 13 verse 3 says, for rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. 1 Timothy 1 verse 9, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly, for the sinners, for the unholy, and for the profane. Isaiah 5:20, woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. These are God's words. He's watching all of us. man and woman, will you bend to their demands? Take a stand as a patriot of America.
Amen.
Thank you. Well done.
Where's that mic? I'm Thomas Cole, P.O. Box 298 in Jacksonville. And I dusted off this old uniform for a reason. I don't say that I represent all the veterans before or all the veterans that's going to come after me. But I'm just one. Just one old guy that has marched to the flag, defended it to save our homes. 700 veterans, Confederate veterans, marched from the square, which is where the courthouse was. These people can't speak for themselves. So I feel so strongly about it, and I agree with him about the heritage. You guys are obviously understanding the importance of it. But these men defended their country just like many soldiers before and after them. The Confederate Memorial was dedicated to those people. It's a memorial for their sacrifices. That's why that statue is there. That's why it's against the law to read. That law was put there for a reason. When I heard my country call me, I stepped up, and as the Bible said, I told them, here I am. Just like them, there was a going away ceremony and patriotic speeches and music on the square, just like I had, and then they left. Many never to come back. I have never burned a flag, but I have folded many at the grave of a patriot. I had to discourage some of these families from opening up these caskets to see their loved one just once more, because I was afraid they're going to see just how little of their son was left. I was in Desert Storm, following the Civil War in Afghanistan. My son has been in Afghanistan and Iraq. He's in Korea right now. My father was in the Korean War. I lost 2 uncles in World War II and one in Korea fighting communists. So, these men have never returned. They took up the flag when threatened with invasion. Only 12%, just go read the 1860 census, 12% owned slaves. The rest of these people were fighting for their homes and their way of life. And almost 43,000 Alabamians were killed in action or died of disease. 20,000 returned so maimed they couldn't earn a living and had to be forced to beg for food and shelter, which included my great-great-grandfather, who couldn't lift his arm after the war. And he was in the poorhouse here in Jacksonville. Alabama lost 1,750 men in one day at Gettysburg. Something that these people probably could cheer about. The mayor's house is still standing, the mayor during this time, and his son was killed also. Every time I drive out that house, I think about the mayor and his son. I wouldn't want it out to you, but I'm afraid somebody will burn it down. With so few that came back from war, the lives of their family were forced to step up, plant, tender, and harvest crops. These people's lives were destroyed for the rest of their lives. They tried to rebuild, which folks could try to help them, and that's why that memorial was there. Our women who kept things going are just as rock solid as the men who left. And they were taken down, I saw tonight, one of the ladies' memorials of the Confederate widows. So, and call them traitors. There's not one Confederate soldier ever been arrested and charged with treason. Not one. Not even the president of the Confederate Army. Because it's not treason. It was taught when they were in West Point. It's in the Constitution. That's why nobody has ever been charged with it. But we do know that Hitler loved to burn books, and he was afraid of any other version of his way of looking at it. And these people that look at the looting and destroying and throwing firearms at cops and say, yeah, that's what I want to be, and then start dressing like them. And then when you say, no, we're not going to take down this memorial, then we'll see the real colors come out. Just like they've already done once before, about 4 weeks ago. So much for giving honor to a parade. The majority of Jacksonville people are on your side. They elected you to represent them. I trust that you will act in Jacksonville citizens' their way of what we want to answer. Thank you.
My name is Dan Barnwell. Live at 1017 Madonna Street, Southeast, Jacksonville, Alabama. Spoke last month, as y'all know. Some of y'all have known me pretty much most of my life. I actually got to be on Facebook called Privileged. Me, Danny Barnwell. So y'all that have known me all my life, that is the first on that. First, let me congratulate you on leaving the statue of old gray soldier standing thus far. Our neighboring city of Gadsden has held the line there, denying the mob and voting to leave the monument of Emma Sampson standing and unmoved. In the last month, much has happened across our nation to prove that the act of appeasement is an agreement to help the mob destroy everything that is good. Since NASCAR accepted Black Lives Matter, and since the University of Alabama and Coach Nick Saban made their public service video and said all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter, how many elderly people have been beaten? How many women have been pulled from their cars and beaten by angry mobs? How many children have been shot? Look what happened in Seattle when the city government allowed Black Lives Matter and Antifa to have their own section of the city. And as I said last month, you cannot undo it. Appeasement is not a good answer to the mob. No is the only good answer. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote that we should believe our own thoughts and listen to our own hearts, or else tomorrow a stranger will say with masterly good sense precisely what we have thought and felt at the time, and we shall be forced to take with shame our own opinion from another person. And he says, do not tell me of my obligation to put all men in good situations. Because it is an endless effort when you try to improve the mood of an always angry mob. As for that memorial monument on the square, it will always be a soldier. It has no choice. We do not see that the young man was a carpenter who laid aside his hammer, an accountant who laid aside his pen and tablet, a teacher who laid aside his books, a lumberjack who put down an axe, a farmer who turned away from his plow. We only know that he was called and he took up his rifle and left his home, and he never made it back here to become the person he was going to be. We must not push them out of our sight. We must not forget them, because monuments made of stone and bronze are there to preserve the memories of those few times in history when living men with tender skin and fragile bones were truly guided by love for their neighbors. Those monuments belong to you as an individual. They are not the property of government, nor do they belong to any political attitude, past, present, or future. They are the remembrance of weeping mothers, of broken-hearted young widows, and of fatherless little children, of your town, of your blood. The monuments are telling the wonderful story of who you really are. In times of decision, never forget the value of an old gray soldier. And I close with this. The last generation to see their children die in some evil war has not yet been born. The last monument has not yet been formed and planted in the center of the last town. Every generation has their sacred military dead. Our town square is beautiful because we have not forgotten